Assalamu alaikum. Let's brighten up your morning. I am Aisha Khan and you're watching the Sabah show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious and the most merciful. Welcome to the round table with me, Aisha Khan, where we discuss very thorny and pertinent issues in our society. And without delay. On the 29th of September, the lives of a mother and her 6-year-old daughter unfortunately came to an end, thanks to the faulty nature of the ferry carrying them and the delay of Kenya ferry. Just before that, 8 students died after their classroom fell to the floor. And let's backtrack just a little bit. On the 28th of July, a mother delivered in the corridors of Mama Lucy Hospital. These are just some of the incidences affecting our beautiful country, Kenya. Now, on this blessed Friday, I wish to ask, if this isn't negligence, then what is it? Of course, I cannot do this alone. This is a very heavy topic affecting our beautiful country, Kenya. I have with me Kigan, a political analyst, and of course, Asmali. They famously call him the Isli Mayor. Do you think our country, Kenya, the government, is negligent?
Absolutely. And I think there is something fundamentally wrong with us. And let me take you back a bit, Aisha. On the 29th of April 1994, it was on a Friday, the Mtongwe ferry, it sank and it killed 257 people. Years later, today, on Sunday actually, as you said, a woman and her child, they drowned and their bodies have not yet been recovered from Sunday, and today is Friday. The Mtongwe ferry, it sank simply because of overcrowding. It carried more than the capacity could hold. Because when it was built in 1972, it was supposed to carry 90 people. Then some cooking was done, then it carried 150 people. Then on that particular day, guess what? It was carrying 300 people, double the size. And I wonder what is really wrong, you know? Because looking at this issue, you find that, number one, the Kenya ferry services, it's like they don't know what they're doing, okay? You find that they don't have, as you've rightly put it, they don't have a rescue team, like for emergency system. And you wonder this, like the MV Harambe, the one that the car fell into the water. It carries 1,350 people. You know, and how can you have 1,350 people in one ferry and there is no emergency rescue system? I mean, anything could happen. Somebody may fall into the water, the car might go into the water, there is no rescue system. The reports that I get from the people who are on the site is that the car, the Toyota Isis, was afloat on the water for around 20 minutes.
And nobody knew about it.
We didn't have speedboats going there. We didn't have people coming to rescue them. You know, that is so appalling. Coming back to another thing, when you look at the ferry, the way it's structured, at the other side and on this other side, there is a ramp. Okay?
Yes.
And the ramp is supposed to hold the cars in case of an emergency. The ferry is moving and the ramp is down, is level. The ramp is not up. And you wonder what is happening. In July 2019, just the other day, there was a Taifa flour truck that fell into the water. And for those people who've used the ferry in Mombasa, when you're about to get to the ferry, there is a concrete sort of a ramp. Then you went into the ferry, and the concrete ramp, when you look at it, at the edges of it, it's sort of like a cliff that goes into the ocean. And if there were rails there, it could have prevented that. There are no rails there. You come to another thing. An interview was done. One of the news presenters in one of the local stations went into the ferry and he interviewed the people who were sitting inside the cars with their seat belts on and their windows up. And they were asking them, why are you doing this? And you are not supposed to do this. The security measure that is supposed to be there, according to the Maritime Authority, is that when you are in a car and you are in the ferry, you are supposed to get out of the car and switch off the engine. People are not doing that.
Are they informed?
They are not informed. And when you come to another thing, in 2013, January 2013, there was a truck that was reversing and it lost control and it killed 4 people there. And this was because the people who are there, and for those people who have used the ferry again, you are cognizant of the fact that in the morning and in the evening, when there is a lot of traffic, people are crossing, there is sort of something like there is a stampede. People are just rushing, you know, everybody wants to get home early. And in that commotion, the truck is when it hit people. And this is what I want to appeal to the Kenya Ferry Services. You need to enlighten these ferry users on the measures, the security measures. You need to have something like an open day, because this is very serious, you know. And in the first obligation to every country is to protect its citizens. And if a country cannot do that, then what is the country doing?
Exactly. Why do we have these public institutions in place if they cannot help us taxpayers? And
Aisha, let me just tell you something else. Did you see the casualness of Mr. Bakari and the whole, who's the MD? Of course,
it's always like that, ni kawaida.
The guy shows up in a casual shirt as if he's going to the beach, and when he starts speaking the English, la hawla. And another thing, he says that we've contracted an individual and we hope. I mean, even starting from the dress code and the kind of language, where are the government officials who are supposed to invite, you know, and inspire confidence in the people? And the family later went on, and from their own pockets they brought 100,000 shillings to so that they can contract a private diver to go and get the body.
We'll be coming to that, Kigen. Now, Asmali, do you think the government is negligent? Before we get into the whole ferry story.
I mean, it's very sad. Negligence is an understatement. And all these things that you are mentioning now is things that are getting reported. There are other stuff, many incidents and events that are not reported, that are not in the limelight.
Sure.
It's as if this country is on autopilot, and we are just here by the mercy of the Almighty. Because there's something called, which they have perfected, which this government have perfected, which is called management by crisis. It's you wait for a disaster to strike, and then you start talking about it. And the other day, when there was a bit of a dust storm a few days ago, when everyone was being blown away. I don't know where Kigen was. He's so thin. I'm glad that he's here. There was a bit of banter on social media. And people were saying, is the education ministry, school inspectors, are they aware of the dust storm? Did they go and check classrooms which might be affected by this dust storm? Or are they waiting for a tragedy to strike so that they can cry foul? And it's very sad that we have a government in place that is supposed to be, by constitution, to protect its citizens. That's the mandate of any government across the world.
Yes.
But this government seems to have neglected that, seems to have put that on the back seat. And the whole issue is because of corruption. We have a cancer of corruption in this country which has taken away not only lives, but the dignity of Kenyans at large. And this ferry incident was very sad. I am a parent. I cannot even imagine the anguish that the families are going through. And a week later, the bodies are not yet recovered.
Imagine.
And like Egan has said, the casual manner in which this incident was handled is what makes people's blood boil even more.
But are people's blood really boiling, Asmali? We're not talking about it.
We are talking about it, honestly. In fact, online, people are crazy. People are going mad online.
And that is something I will come and ask you about online.
Yes.
Now, moving on to this issue, you know, the mother and her 6-year-old, and I emphasize 6-year-old, beautiful family, small girl who would have had an amazing future, but where is she today? Her body can't even be retrieved. That is the sad part of it. Now, just imagine, Asmali, you just said you're a father, right? This is your daughter, your wife, God forbid. And they're in there. The government can do nothing about it. They're casually taking up this case. Then you have to go look for someone to come and rescue them. You have to pay money. Tell me about that.
It's not even rescue anymore. It's recovery. You know, a rescue was the first 20 minutes, like we said.
Oh.
And in the Western world, they have rescue missions that are designed for this. And the irony of it all is that it happened when we are supposedly proud of a Kenyan Navy. You know, they are based there. They're just a few meters away from where the ferry incident happened. And
what did they have to
what's
say?
happening?
We
You
were
know,
practicing
people are
for
asking, where are these
Mashuja Day.
guys? And then people, you know, this managing director of Kenya Ferry Services, Mr. Baraka, was saying that we don't even have oxygen. You know, sometimes it's you wonder what sort
It's hilarious.
And then the funny thing
And
is, which
disastrous.
is bitter, is he's still in office, dunking biscuits in his tea every morning, thinking about his salary. I'm sure he has fetched his October salary or September salary, which is very sad. It's not about Mr. Baraka, it's not about an individual,
Sure.
but it's about taking responsibility. There was a prime minister in Latvia who resigned because a roof collapsed in a classroom or whatever it was. There's a transport minister in Tokyo, Japan, who resigned because the train arrived 2 minutes late, later than the scheduled times. It's not about an individual, it's about a country, it's about taking responsibilities for your actions. You are put there, you are in office. It's not about you, it's not about Mr. Baraka or Mr. John or Mr. Mohammed. So we need to inculcate that culture of taking responsibility in our leadership. People are just looking at their fat checks, you know, and their paychecks. And they have neglected the simple reason why they're in office. And it's across this country, from governors who are looting counties left, right, center, to managing directors, to CEOs of public corporations. I was at an event yesterday where there was a private bank was celebrating 35 years. And I loved the way they were doing their management stuff. And sometimes you wonder, why are not these people in private given this public responsibility so that they can run this government the way it's supposed to be done, effectively?
And there's a loophole there. Now, before we end this segment, you know, authorities, of course, you know, let us down, as always. That is the government. Chinese came in to help. We had even robots going, you know, to help us. Then Joho went all the way to South Africa to bring experts. And then here we are, we have locals. For example, Musa came up and said that he could, you know, help to rescue the victims. But at the end of the day, do you feel we as Kenyans are not proud of our people? Because we have them. They you know, they don't have the skills, yes, like they don't have the certificates of, you know, a diver, but these are local people. That is their job. They go down, you know, down there, so many feet under to just get a crab and a shrimp. Are you telling them we can't trust them enough to get our humans out?
Aisha, in Africa and in Kenya as well, we have the inferiority complex where we always see as something outside is better than what we have inside. And even you find it, even one of your relatives or friends travels to a country like Malawi or Angola, and you are like, wow, this person traveled. I mean, he went to Malawi or Angola. You can't compare them with Kenya in good faith. Coming back to this issue, I mean, even first for the family to raise money for them to seek the services of a private person, it shows that the government of Kenya in itself is incompetent in doing this. And what about those families that cannot be able to raise that 100,000 for this?
Imagine.
what will happen to them. And I want to belabor the point that he has said. All this narrows down to corruption. Because trust me, last year, on the 10th of May, it was on a Wednesday night actually, 48 people died in Solai when a dam collapsed. And when the dam collapsed, you find that there were the Water Resource Authority was supposed to be collecting yearly reports about how the dam is doing. There had been reported leakages, and it looks like somebody was paid to look the other way.
Amazing. Wow. Amazing. Now my producer Amina, as always, you know, is in a rush and she's like, we don't have time. But we always have time here at Horizon TV to discuss the loopholes in our public institutions. Because if me and you today do not stand up for this injustice by using our voice, then you know what? Our children will face this year in, year out. And we will be the ones to blame. Now we'll be taking a short break and we will be right back.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's brighten up your morning. I am Aisha Khan and you're watching the Sabah show only on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Akawa Abdul Muttalib ampenda sana Mtume sallam hata kushinda watoto wake. Na Abdul Muttalib, Mtume Muhammad sallam alikuwa ni mjukuu wake. Abu Talib na babake Mtume sallam dimba ndugu, tumbo moja, mama moja, baba moja. Baada ya miaka miwili Abdul Muttalib kufa, alipofika miaka 10 wakaamua kufunga safari kwenda Sham, kwenda kufanya biashara. Faqala rahib, huyu mtoto akifika akionekana dola ya Rum watamuua. Akaamua kurudi kuweza kuishi katika mji wa Makka kwa mara nyingine.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's brighten up your morning. I am Aisha Khan and you're watching the Sabah show only on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. Now from the first segment, you know, we've come to realize that Kenyans need to wake up and do something. But do you feel that we as Kenyans have lost hope? Because all this is happening, yet we still choose to see bad news every single day of our lives and do nothing about it. Rush on Twitter, rush on Facebook, rush on Instagram, complain about it, but what is the solution? Will we ever stand up as Kenyans? Now, moving on to the next thing, what do you think the standards of our schools are? Because, you know, we have Talents Academy. Just the other day, 8 students lost their lives, and of course, others were injured. What do you have to say about this, Asmali?
First of all, I want to send my condolences to the families and friends of those innocent kids who lost their lives. I take my daughter to school every morning, and it's very hard to take your kid to school and go back and pick a body. It's disheartening, it's very sad, it's cruel. No words can measure it. And what happened at that school is very unfortunate, but it's something that is unforgivable. And I am sure the owner is now, I'm told, is in court, but that should not be the end of it. I think more heads need to roll. There should be a thorough investigation. And it's very, very unfortunate that we are playing with the lives of small children. That's how low we have sunk as a country. And schools are supposed to be a sacred place. Whatever happens inside school is a place, an institution where you, as a parent, you feel your child is safe. But what has happened at that school is really sad. It has actually broken many hearts. And like Egan has said again, people are coming out casually. You know, oh, we have lost 8 kids. We will learn from this tragedy. How many times will we learn from tragedies? How many times? How many more lives do we have to lose so that we learn from these tragedies? You know, how many innocent kids should die before we learn our lesson? It's, again, taking responsibility. And up to now, it's been a week or 2 or 3, I think, now, since that school tragedy, and no government official has resigned or has been sacked or has taken responsibility. And taking responsibility is not weakness. It's actually strength. You say, listen, this has happened, it's a tragedy, it shouldn't happen in the first place. I step aside so that we have closure.
We pray for that day to come, Asmali. We really pray for it.
We do pray. But it's very sad.
Yeah. Kigan, what do you have to say about this? Standards of schools.
If the government does not change its reactionary sort of measure instead of being proactive, may God help us. This is nothing short of a corruption case. Leave alone, gloves off, leave alone this guy, the owner of the school who is in court. I am more worried of the Ministry of Education guys who gave this guy a green light to run the school. I am more worried about the city inspectorate here who gave this school a green light to work with the kind of buildings they have. And I am sure there are other many schools, same as the Precious Talent, that are sitting and running. Today is a Friday. They are in class, kids, in such kind of schools in Kenya. The government, and trust me, if it hadn't happened in Precious School Talent, we couldn't be having this conversation because of the reactionary kind of way that the government is dealing with this. And again, I have an issue with some parents. When you go to your schools in these things they call parents meeting and parents day, and they sit in those same classes when they are holding these parents meetings, and you see the state of the class and you still allow the kid to go to that school. And again, the other day we saw last week that there are some parents who came out to the media and said, hey, we want this school to be reopened, we want to take our kids here again. Come on, seriously? I mean, the parents also have
this. As a result of that, you know, the government is not taking charge of this, right?
Yeah.
So you find these investors, big businessmen, are looking, you know, this is a niche for me to attack. This is a niche for me to attack and for me to get schools, you know. And this is a basic right, you know, basic need. And the investors are coming in and are looking at this, you know. The public schools have not been increased. 20 years back, I was a little baby then. Maybe you too. And, you know, the same schools are still existing because we hear our parents saying, you know what, I went to that school. And again, we're sent to the same schools. So what do you think? You know, the government is doing nothing about it.
I know. You know, Aisha, what is even more sad it's also, you guys in the media, you have to take a huge blame of it. Sometimes it's not about reporting. Sometimes it's investigating news. And now, a few days after Precious Talent School, after the ferry tragedy, after all these incidents, guess the headlines in the newspapers? Politics.
Thank
Ruto,
you.
Raila, handshake. You know, these things do not make to the front pages of newspapers. Media, television stations do not talk about these things until it happens. And there's something fundamentally wrong with us as a society. We have lost our values, the national values, for example. What do we stand for as a country? And as parents, like he said, they have to take responsibilities of where their kids are going to school. And also Kenyans, we have a very fickle minds, fish memory. You know, we shout for 24 hours and that's it. Who remembers NYS 1, NYS2, we have,
KPLC.
Solai Dam. We just move on, which is a good thing as a country. We have a very docile society. We move on from these tragedies. But we need to ask questions offline. And I must commend people in Mombasa, for example. They have been shouting about the SGR. And then yesterday, the government came out, full of power and oomph to talk about SGR. The governor is there, the MPs are there, the CS responsible for this is there. Because people have been having demonstrations on the streets, offline. So I think it's about, we have revolutions every day on Twitter.
We'll be coming into that on the third segment.
There is a revolution going on. So and you can tell information is power. Thanks to social media, Kenyans are now much more informed of their rights.
Very true.
People know about things that they did not know about a few years ago. And we need, it's a good thing. It's something that is progressive. But we need to have these conversations offline. We need to talk to each other. We need to demand for the rights of ourselves, human rights, basic human rights. And again, back to the newspapers, they're talking about referendum, 2022. It's not about that. What the government needs to do is to uphold the rule of law, full stop. And everything will be better that time. Just uphold the rule of law, respect human rights, and then let's have a conversation as a country. Referendum or not.
Aisha, Nairobi is home to 5 million people. There are only 225 primary schools, public, in Nairobi. And this, if you look at how they are structured, they are in Westlands, you have 3 of them. In Kilimani, just next there, you have 3 of them. You go to places like Embakasi and Pipeline, there are no public schools there. So it's private schools there. And you find it's such a problem, even for the legislators in Nairobi, for you, if you're having CDF money and you need to buy land again in Nairobi, then you need to build, it's another conversation altogether. And coming back to one thing you said about Kenyans, we have our expectations are so low. That's why in Nairobi, when Sonko cleans up the streets, it looks like a miracle. It looks like he has done us a very big favor by coming up with the monthly cleaning days. And cleaning is the most basic of all things that can be done to people. I mean, that is the lowest standards of service that you can give to somebody. Just cleanliness. But then to us, it's like it's a miracle. It's wow, fantastic, because of what we are used to as a people. And we have to change our expectations. And as he has said, the first step of people even having a revolution is them understanding, is them knowing, is information. Information is the first tool, thanks to social media. And as he said about the people of Mombasa coming out, for me it was very heartwarming, coming out to defend their economy, because it is the economy, it's what feeds them.
True.
And Ronald Reagan, a president of the US, once said that if you don't control the government will control you. And we are having Mashuja days, right? In the next 10 days, I think, on 20th of October. And there are people who are starting to say, let's boycott. And I'm saying, even before we boycott, I mean, why are we even celebrating these things? Trust me, if the Mashujas were here today in 2019, they wouldn't even celebrate this thing we are celebrating about them. Because there's nothing to celebrate about. Are we celebrating about those kids who are sitting on stones reading in schools in 2019? I mean, are we celebrating mothers who are giving birth on the floor? Or are we even celebrating Huduma number?
And the thing is, thanks to some leadership in this country, we have devolution for the first time in this country. But again, corruption has taken over devolution. We have something called devolved corruption. People are enriching themselves individually in counties. It's just devolved corruption. So we need to start to talk about the issue of corruption. I think that's the basic thing that as Kenyans we need to do. We need to question and this country is very rich. We have a very huge country with a lot of resources. Some countries will kill to have Kenya.
And we don't appreciate.
We have the
Kenya.
sunshine, we have the Mara, we have the sea and the sand, we have resources, we have oil for the first time.
Tax that we pay.
And people are paying taxes trillions of shillings. So we need to ask questions. And I'm glad that people are starting to understand their rights at the moment. But coming back to the issue of negligence again, we need again to question ourselves. We are the ones who put these leaders in those places that they are. Some of us woke up twice to vote at 4 o'clock in the morning to vote for these guys. So we have to question ourselves as well. Where are we going wrong? You know, what are we doing wrong that is making us vote for these people? Are we going back to our tribal cocoons every 5 years? And honestly, that's what we do. I've seen people travel from Nairobi to go and vote for an MCA in Mandera because he comes from his clan. And instead of being a Nairobi resident asking questions of his senator and governor and MP. You know, buses are going to Turkana and Bomet and Mandera and Garissa so that this guy, who is supposedly educated, city boy, going back to his village to vote for an MCA because he comes from his tribe or clan or you know, ethnicity, whatever. So it's about Kenyans also coming out and questioning, you know, we need to do a lot of soul searching in this country.
And Aisha, I think it's also an issue of priorities. Because I don't think in any right state of mind, I am having 25 chase cars, I am having 5 secretaries, and we have and we have the Kenya Ferry Service. They don't have an emergency, you know, rescue unit. You have, I don't know, you have how many, you have tea served in your office, I don't know for how many people.
And your PA has a PA.
Your PA has a PA, and your secretary has a secretary, and budgets for your, I don't know, for your, you have 5 drivers, I don't know. And in the same country, the people you are leading, the children are sitting under stones where they're reading.
Now, do we lack visionary leaders? From what I'm getting is our leaders have no vision. As Kenyans, we just go with the flow.
They have vision, but the vision they have is to loot. They're very visionary in looting.
Wow. So what is the solution? Like, how can our leaders have a vision? Should we get an academy? Because we take our children to academies to be journalists, to be lawyers, to be doctors. Should we have academies for our leaders to get some vision?
I don't think, in as much as there is that thing around academies and everything, I believe that a leader, the basics of leadership, it all narrows down, you know, and the bottom line is really if your heart is out there to serve people. You know, Kenyan leaders and even Kenyans to some extent, we can claim anything but not patriotism. You see, we have to be patriotic to our country because at the end of the day, these all lootings and everything, tutaziwacha hapa hivi. Tuenda tu pale kwa futi sita.
To play the devil's advocate, we do have a few leaders who are doing a fantastic job in their constituents and the areas of jurisprudence, and we have, like to be fair to him, a local member of parliament, Kamukunji member of parliament, Honorable Yusuf Hassan, is doing a fantastic work. He's asking the hard questions in parliament. Yesterday he was on the floor of parliament asking questions about KDF encroachment in one of his constituency villages. So we do have these leaders. And the late Ken Okoth was a visionary leader. And that's why he built schools. He was emphasizing on building schools in Kibra because he knew education is the gateway to freedom and to better living. So someone like Ken Okoth was fantastic. He was a great leader. We do have a few individuals here and there who are visionary in changing Kenya for the better.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Now, we have talked a lot about problems. In the next segment, we want to look at solutions because I will quote Suratul Ar-Rad, that is chapter 13 of the Holy Quran. Verily, Allah will never change the condition of people until they change themselves.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's brighten up your morning. I am Aisha Khan and you're watching the Sabah Show. Only on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Kiumbe dhaifu lakini jasiri.
Alitunukiwa sura nzima,
sura inayompa daraja yake inavyostahiki. Sharti ajigambe.
Naam, na pepo ipo chini ya nyayo zake.
Mpamba nyumba na nyoyo za wapendwa wake.
anayebeba majukumu yake pasina kupinga.
Mtazamaji, je, unamfahamu anayezungumziwa?
Bila ya kusahau hadhi yake na haki zake.
Ungana nami Rahma Swaleh na Sheikh Juma Amir
tukuelimishe na kukupa mwelekeo katika maisha ya ndoa
kwenye kipindi Dira ya Mwanamke.
Usikose kutegea Dira ya Mwanamke Jumapili hii tarehe 6 mwezi wa Oktoba mwaka 2019 saa 2:30 usiku.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's brighten up your morning. I am Aisha Khan and you're watching the Sabah show.
Only on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the last segment of the roundtable. Of course, we will talk a lot. We have talked about problems, and now we are geared towards looking at the solutions. How can we save our beautiful country, Kenya, and not just sit there and wonder, what should we do? Should we lose hope? No, there's a way. Now, you know, we've been talking about the public sector being having so many problems. Do you think this problem from the public sector is diving down and going down to the public? Because you have something as simple as just the traffic lights, obeying them is a problem. Something as simple as just tying your seatbelt, we wait for the police. And that's when we start looking, where is the seatbelt? Kigen?
First of all, in the solutions part, I'd start by belaboring my point on getting our priorities right. Then I will move on to this issue of fixing the structural problems. And I think this can be fixed by, as Kenyans, we should join our fellow brothers when they are in need of something. And I'll take it back to this point. When you look at the time when there was an issue last year or the other year, can't remember very well, where a doctor at KNH, a surgeon, operated on the wrong guy, you know, and this is simply a structural problem, and we are scapegoating these doctors and nurses and medical practitioners in general. And I'll tell you why. When a doctor or a nurse gets out of his or her home in the morning, he or she doesn't go to the hospital with an intention of operating on the wrong person or causing harm on the patient. Their intention is purely to help the patient, you know, become better in terms of health. And it's simply a structural problem because when it was an issue of them mislabeling the person who was being operated. And trust me, this is a structural problem simply because in Kenya, the standards that are set are 3 nurses for 10 patients. But in Kenya, when you go to Kenyatta, you have 3 nurses to even more than 100. You know, and this is simply a structural problem. And in Kenya, do you know that we have a shortage of 35,000 doctors? You see, and this is why such things are happening. And when we see the doctors crying out, complaining that they want better services, the doctors are not just going out there strikes because they want money. No. It's because, yes, they are underpaid, but it's because they also have issues with the working environment and working condition, same as the teachers. So I want to tell Kenyans, when you see your fellow Kenyan complaining out there, please support that person. You may not know what is going on there at the ground. So please, let's support other people. Don't just say it's not my own problem, it's their own problem. Let them fight for it, because at the end of the day, it impacts all of us in general.
From what you've just said, Keegan, it just looks like we as a society, as Kenyans, we are so self-centered to a point it's all about me and nothing about us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now, Asmali, you know, we are always so angry at the chicken thief. You know, we're always running around, eh? You'll even see it will make headlines. But why aren't we angry towards the negligent leaders?
I mean, Kenyans are very, very good people. Kenyan as a society are hardworking, innovative, very honest people. I mean, if you go to...
Are we really honest?
We are honest people.
Okay.
Very honest, hardworking people. Very honest, hardworking people. If you go to Wakulima market at 4 o'clock in the morning, you'll see a mother waiting for her truck to arrive so that she buys mboga and sells it to others. You see mkokoteni guys hustling every day in sunshine and in rain. You'll see a school teacher waiting for a bus at 6 o'clock so that they go and teach in schools. You see doctors who are doing a fantastic job. As a country, Kenyan people are fantastic people, very docile, but they do lack leadership. They lack leadership, visionary leadership, transparent leadership, honest leadership. That's what they are lacking. And you wonder sometimes, why do we put such people in office? Tumerogwa ama nini? Because you'll see all these guys coming together, 45 million of us, and whatever number that votes, and then putting 800,000 people in Nairobi, putting someone in office, you know, and hoping to see a miracle happen. And sometimes we need to choose our leaders on their actions, on their pledges, on their manifesto. You know, these leaders bring out some beautiful manifestos and we'll do this in 100 days and blah, blah, blah. But then again, they fail Kenyans who have voted for them. 4 o'clock in the morning, queuing to vote for them. So as a country, we have people in Northeastern who are waking up every morning to go to a quarry so that they put food on the table of their families.
Wow.
You have people in Mombasa who go fishing as early as 3 o'clock in the morning. So we are hardworking country. We have people who have skills and talents, but their talents and skills are not nurtured because the leaders they put in place are not making life easier for them. And it's not, Kenyans do not want money from these leaders. They want a conducive environment so that they can do their business in peace and in dignity. That's all they want. It's not about handouts. Handouts of 200 bob will take you nowhere.
Nowhere.
So I call upon the leadership in this country to make sure that the investors have got a conducive environment to do business. That the mama mboga who is at Wakulima market in the morning at 4 o'clock is not taxed so that she cannot be able to pay school fees for her kids. We need an environment where the shopkeeper in his sleeve, for example, knows that at the end of the day he goes home with something in his pocket. So it's about leadership is about making life easier for the Mwananchi.
It's true, very
and that's
true.
all. That's all we need.
Keegan, I'll come to you from what Asmali has just said. You know, Kenyans are very hardworking, but there's a difference between working hard and working smart. Are we negligent as the public, where we appoint this, and you know, we're very ignorant, you know, per se. Do you think that it is our problem? We are there complaining those are our leaders, but it is us who put them in positions of power, and out of negligence sit on the bench, go fishing at 3 a.m. in the morning and still complain about them.
We have to assign the responsibility to us, because millions of people voted for the government that is running right now, and it was 50+%, you know, and we can't run away from that. But again, I tend to be disappointed at times because I feel, from my own analysis, personal analysis, I feel that Kenyans are not ready for the revolution and the change that is required. You know, because I still see Kenyans, they personify themselves, not personify, they individualize themselves so much. If it's not my my problem, then why should I care about it? I mean, if there's somebody dying of hunger in Turkana, I mean, I'm not the one dying of hunger. It's not my problem. And when we kill that kind of mentality and that kind of thinking, that is when we can move forward as a country. So I think Kenyans sadly will have to go through the pain and the agony of it until we realize that, you know, it is not my problem or his problem, it is our problem as a country, and we should fix it. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, because I am very happy that today Kenyans are becoming smarter. Kenyans are not fools anymore that you can lie to them. Kenyans have been educated, Kenyans have been enlightened thanks to the social media and to the conversations that we hold. And I want to tell Kenyans, let us hold sober conversations and let us ask the serious questions, because it is our country. We have to own it.
And it tells you something when Kenyans on Twitter started attacking leaders who went to Precious Talent School. Yeah. You know, there was a lot of noise being made about the local MP and the women leadership and whatever who went there. They call it the celebrity moments. So people in Nairobi actually, at least in the capital city, do know about their rights. They cannot be taken for a fool anymore. But sadly enough, again, to contradict myself, come 3 years, 2022, we'll go back to our tribal cocoons and vote for them again and again and again.
I hope not.
That's
Asmali, do I, as a Kenyan citizen, have any privileges? Because let's say I go to another country or another place, you know, and I get lost. Will my country come look for me? Like, will anyone take responsibility? What privileges do I have?
Aisha, you know, the Kenyan constitution is very beautifully written. It's well crafted. You know, someone said the Kenyan constitution is a first world constitution in a third world country.
The enforcement part.
The enforcement and the execution bit, that's what we are lacking. Yeah.
But Aisha, at the end of the day, you know, we have to look at all these things. You know, the Kenya ferry service doesn't have an emergency unit. You know, we have all this shortage of things, and this narrows down to one thing: all these institutions, they are not empowered. You know, they are not empowered financially, which translates into, you know, human resource and translates in terms of capital with equipment and all this stuff. And by the way, me, I'm not shocked. I don't know why many Kenyans are shocked. Because what do you expect from a country where the control of budget has been on record saying that in every 1 shilling that Kenya collects in tax, 61 cents of it are used in paying back debts. And only 39% is left there for which will be used for the current expenditures, paying salaries and a lot of office tea, and the secretary for the secretary and the PA for the PA, and nothing will be left for development. So at the end of the day, it narrows down to leadership, and we have to watch especially our finance and our treasury. But for me, I am more worried. I'm more worried not of the fact that if 61 cents is spent in every 1 shilling to repay taxes in every 1 shilling that we collect. I'm more worried about those leaders not being worried. Because if you look at the guys in Treasury, the guys in Central Bank, these are guys from Harvard, London School of Economics. These are guys who've worked in IMF, in World Bank. They know the numbers. They know which numbers translates, but I don't know what kind of witchcraft gets to them.
Wow. With all this, what is my role as a Kenyan citizen towards these public institutions? Because a lot of blame is put on them, but what role do I play as a Kenyan citizen?
The role that Kenyans can play is very simple. When it comes to general elections, make the right choices. And again, let us always come into support and let us call the government to task. Because as we and it works, really it works, because we've seen Mombasa did it. They called the government to task in terms of the SGR deal. And it was brought down yesterday as we saw it. We have to know our rights and we have to stand up for it. Nobody will.
So we should take part in public participation. You know, there is a lot of town hall invitations for people to take part in public participations. But then again, if you go to such a meeting, you'll see 3, 4, 5 people attending it. So, and then when it's on the newspapers, there's a lot of uproar about it. Oh, there was no public party. There was actually. You know, to play public devil's advocate, most of these things are self-inflicted. We need to go into these public participations, take part in the conversations, and talk to the government. There's a lot of avenues that we can use to vent our air. Not only online, we need to come out offline talk to our leaders, ask them questions, question them on integrity, question them on their budget. CDF, for example, ask your MP what he or she did, ask your governor where the billions of shillings that the country was allocated went to, ask your senator about his oversight role, ask your women rep about social responsibilities that they are entrusted with, and so on and so forth. So we need to ask questions. And every MP is a public officer. You have every right to question them. They are not private. If it's a manager of a bank and I ask them about my road, I'm wrong. But this MP has been elected by the people, and he or she is supposed to work for the people.
Amazing. Yeah. Now, Asmali, on to you still is you're very active on Twitter. You're known as the Twitter guy, basically Mayor himself. Now, are we just keyboard warriors and on the ground things are different?
Qua ground, they say qua ground, victory different. It's true. I mean, we make a lot of noise, which is a good thing. Again, making noise is actually part of your right as a citizen in this country. And the keyboard warriors are getting more emboldened, more informed, and more dynamic. They know what they're talking about, they're making noise. And I've seen many times that the conversation on the social media is what leads the mainstream news sometimes. I have been in a campaign, for example, in 2015, 2016, where I started a hashtag called Isli Neglected because of garbage that was piling up in Isli. The governor then came on the ground and started clearing and making things change. So we have a voice. We can make a difference. And most of these hashtags on Twitter are acted upon by the government. Government are really in the streets every day, every minute and every hour. They do know what the conversations are about. There are people who are very, very big bloggers online who are making changes for the better and asking the hard questions. So online, fantastic. Offline,
kuna shida.
Kwa ground, vitu
Kigen, offline kuna shida. Tufanye nini?
When you look at all these things, not everybody has the courage, to come out there, I think we've made a very big step, people even getting the courage to tweet, to Facebook, and to WhatsApp and talk about these pertinent issues and call our leaders to task. I feel that we will get there, our democracy is still young. We will get there. There have been, the thing that scares people off is that the few people who've come out, on the streets, they're always met by very bad forces, by the police and such and such. But I know there is light at the end of the tunnel, that we will get there soon. But I think the first step that we are getting it right is first the enlightenment part, that for you to know first this is your right and for you to understand that you deserve this.
Amazing. Now, special thanks to my producer, Amina Mohammed, for making this happen today. Special thanks to all my presenters who chipped into this conversation. Special thanks to my guests here. Without you, I could not do this alone. And of course, my technical operators, without you, I would not be on air. Transmission, without you, again, I would not be on air. Thank you so much for the team who made today happen. Now, I have a message for people out there, as always, my perspective. KOT went wild when a mother delivered on the floor of a hospital. KOT went wild when the Mara haste was revealed. KOT went wild when the dam scandal happened. And right now, KOT is going so wild that they are threatening to boycott Mashujaa Day over the ferry incident. Now, are we just keyboard warriors? And on the ground, things are different. As Kenyans, have we lost hope? Now you can tweet and retweet on my Twitter handle, that is at AishaKhan8 at Horizontv Kenya.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's brighten up your morning. I am Aisha Khan and you're watching the Sabah Show.
Only on Horizon TV.